Churchill, a professional stone carver, released her reproduction of the Moost Happi medal in bronze resin to the wide world. The popularity of the reconstruction cannot be overlooked, with numerous historians such as David Starkey, Alison Weir, and the late Eric Ives commenting on its importance as the closest item we have now in understanding what the real Anne Boleyn, second wife to King Henry VIII of England, looked like. The original medal was struck in 1534 and is housed in the British Museum. Having faced significant damage over the years, it makes Lucy's feat in reconstructing the medal even more impressive. So now that Lucy has released her reconstruction as a necklace pendant in a different range of materials, it seems as good a time as any to chat with her, revisiting the process of her initial reconstruction and to see if she's learnt anything new since its initial release. So hello Lucy, thank you for agreeing to chat to us and welcome to A Tudor Wardrobe Examined.
My pleasure.
So I've got a load of questions to ask you, so let's jump right into it. So let's take a back now to all those years ago. How and when did you initially become interested in the Moost Happi medal?
Well, it was 12 years ago and my daughter was a baby, and so I had a bit more time on my hands, and I started reading about Henry VIII, and I started, as one does, with his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, and I felt so moved by her plight, and I thought, who is this bitch? And Boleyn, I just thought, what a horrible person, and I just wanted to find out more about her.
Mm-hmm.
A sort of understanding, you know, who this beast of a woman was, because if you know, when you start with Catherine of Aragon, anyway, so I read a lot about her, and again in the books people said the only portrait of her that is definitely of her and made during her lifetime is this Moost Happi medal.
Mm-hmm.
But all the historians said, unfortunately, it's too badly damaged to be of any use as an identification for her features.
Yeah.
And because of my work in historical reconstruction in the stone carving business, I'm trained to look at things and to see what information is left, which marks are random, which marks are deliberate. And so I felt duty bound to do it. And you know, I mean, I've got lots of colleagues that would have the technical skills to do it, but I thought they would just knock up a random Tudor face and go, there you go, job done.
Yeah.
But because of my kind of passion to know exactly what she looked like, I had read all the books and made loads of notes, and you know, I'm sure a lot of Anne Boleyn enthusiasts would have wanted to have done that in the past, but because of my training, it is a very rigorous interpretation of the information that's there. You know, it would have been very tempting to make her look prettier.
Yeah,
obviously, but you can't do that. You know, you're trained to sort of do as much as you can to adhere to what's there.
I'm glad you stuck to the truth rather than try to make her look.
Well, to be honest, when I saw it, the initial cast, I thought, she's not very pretty. And I went back and kind of adapted it and made her prettier, just, you know, tidied it up a little bit. And she suddenly looked classical. She didn't look like a reference. It changed it. So I went back to the original cast.
That's fabulous. So what was the purpose of the Moost Happi medal? Why was it made back in 1534?
Well, for a long time it was thought to celebrate her wedding, and even on the British Museum database it said it was to commemorate her wedding, but the wedding was in 1533. Mm-hmm. And what it seems sure to be is that we know she was pregnant then, and of course the pregnancy failed, but it was very much thought that she was carrying a male heir then. And I only realised recently, I kind of had a flash of understanding that I had thought, oh yeah, it was to celebrate her pregnancy. And it struck me that to see it as a celebration of pregnancy is very much a 21st century way of looking at it. And it's not a little sort of baby shower trinket. I think it was a very clear message. We know that Anne Boleyn was so good at giving out messages and using visual symbols to give messages. And just as when she got crowned for her coronation, she was the only consort who was crowned using the crown of St. Edward, because she was pregnant then with Elizabeth, and she wanted the baby to be, crowned as heir too. And I think her making this medal and wearing the gable hood, which was the symbol of the Queen of England, I think was a real piece of propaganda.
So you obviously decided then that it was worth reconstructing. How did you begin going about that? What process did you follow?
Well, I can't talk about it because for contractual reasons, but there will be a programme coming out. It should have been out now, but because of the pandemic, it's been delayed. But I can't say much about it, but I can say it does go into how I made it. So I won't go bigly into it.
Yeah.
But just quickly, I sent off and got, this is the photograph of the original. This is a very clear photograph taken by the British Museum, so it's very well lit and it's sort of straight, full on, so it's a very good thing to watch.
Lovely.
Yeah, and what I did was using a kind of poor man's light box, I held it up against the window and then I traced so that I could get, this is actually a slightly larger version, but so I made a very accurate footprint.
Yeah.
So these lines, are exactly echoing this. So that the length of her face and her neck, all of it is accurate. And then I basically, what did I do? Then I went to the British Museum, looked at it under magnification, took lots of notes, annotated this sort of line drawing.
Yeah.
Came back, and then I don't know if you can see, this is the line drawing. Can you see there's lots of little dots?
Yes, like pin pricks.
Yeah, well, it is literally pin pricks. I put this onto a clay disc and pricked it through, and that transferred the accurate footprint. So this is all part of the training where you kind of, whatever information you have, you keep hold of it.
Yeah.
So there's the minimum amount of interpretation. And then onto that footprint, I then built it up using all the information that I'd gathered at the British Museum. That's it.
Fabulous. So
just like that.
Just like that. So obviously you've got to handle the medal. What was the medal like to work with? Was it quite soft upon inspection, or was it quite hard?
Well, it's lead, like what's used for repairing church roofs and stuff. It's malleable, which is why it got damaged.
Yeah.
A lot of historians said that it had been deliberately damaged when Anne fell out of favour.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that kind of is part of whipping up the interest in Anne Boleyn and the drama of it, that it was like, yeah. I mean, a lot of her portraits and insignia were damaged, but in this case, the truth is just a little bit more ordinary. That it's just careless storage. It was squashed because something was put on top of it. definitely not deliberately damaged. If that's deliberate damage, it's pathetic. But no, it isn't. It's careless
So just
storage.
squashed. How interesting.
Just squashed, yeah.
So did you face any challenges in the reconstruction process then?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's never going to be easy.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I was overcome with admiration for the person who did it originally, because my version was, well, I actually have it was made at this size. You can see the size of it.
Yeah.
So, that was fiddly enough, and it was quite tricky because I made it in wax, and so I had to be very careful when I worked it that I didn't squash the areas that I'd done. So I kept having to put it into the freezer to harden it up. And I had a fantastic lamp with magnification, so I had all mod cons, but the poor person who made the original, much smaller, I think they used glass vases filled with water. That was their very early way of getting magnification. But incredible feat. So I can't complain about any difficulty I had.
Having to freeze it, that's amazing. So, Anne is depicted in the medal wearing a large amount of jewellery. So how did you know what the jewellery looked like, since that part of the original medal was damaged?
Well, it wasn't. That's the thing. Because it was only the high areas here and on her nose and a little bit of the eye. It was only the high areas that were squashed. There was an enormous amount of detail in the lower parts of her dress and in the flat areas of her hood. So you can see that you get glimmers of it and then it's faded away, and you just think, right, well, okay, there's beads going down there and you can see them carrying on there. So it's just joining up the dots, really. And also, having studied it so closely under magnification, you can't see it in the photograph so well. But at the British Museum, I realised that you can actually see the weave of the fabric in her gable hood. And it is the exact same fabric and filament and necklace that you can see that Jane Seymour is wearing in the Holbein painting.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's phenomenal.
And then, having realised that, I then went and scoured all the other paintings of Henry's wives, and you can see elements of the dress. So obviously it was the gable hood. You can see the filament and the necklace with the cross in at least 3 paintings of Catherine of Aragon. And in the Jane Seymour painting, you can see the hood, the necklace with a different pendant, and a belt too, and the dress. In the Moost Happi medal, she's wearing a different dress, but I think that's because she was pregnant. She was definitely pregnant at that time. So she probably didn't fit the official Queen's dress. And then even Catherine Howard, you can see picture. She's wearing the jewellery. So it was obviously a really important bit of clothing.
So, do you believe that these could perhaps have been part of the Queen's jewels that Catherine of Aragon had been forced to hand over to the Duke of Norfolk back in 1532? So before Henry and Anne Boleyn's trip over to Calais? Do you think?
I mean, I don't know if those are specifically the ones, but clearly the fact that the other wives wore it, even though it must have been really creepy for them to wear something, like wearing a necklace, knowing that it had warmed the flesh of, someone who had their head shot, I mean, like Jane would have worn it months after Anne was beheaded. So that must have been really creepy. But obviously it was either so costly or so significant that presumably, I think it would be fairly safe to assume that was the case.
That's fantastic. So when reconstructing the medal, were you surprised by Anne's facial structure? Because it's quite different to what we're presented with in her portraits. And so why do you think that is?
Well, the iconic images that we have
Yeah.
are icons. You know, they're very stylized. She has a pointy face, sort of very small chin, and these little rosebud lips. And this medal does not show a woman like that. But then again, if you read all the contemporary accounts of her, she wasn't the most beautiful woman at court. Somebody said she had a wide mouth. I don't think she was a babe that looked like Natalie Portman, or, you know, all these. Yeah. And to be honest, I think it's a disservice to Anne to think of her as being this pretty girl. Not that there's anything wrong with pretty girls, but, you know, it's like,
I think you're right though. It's the way that they stylize, you know, the characters and stuff in episodes like the Tudors, you know, and they're in these dresses which are really not, you know, accurate to the time period, you know, and they've got their hair done and their makeup fully done, and you just think it's definitely not how it would have been done. But
it's like it was her personality that grabbed him, her wit, and her. Yeah, I just think, and also, I mean, back in those days, people weren't so hung up about appearance. They talked much more about status, you know, about where they were in the procession or connections and stuff, you know. So I think the trouble is we look so often at history with contemporary eyes and thereby miss so much.
That's very true. So let's go back to the clothing that we were talking about.
Oh yeah.
So the clothing.
Yeah, enough of that. Enough about strong personality. Let's talk about clothes.
Yeah. So the clothing worn by Anne Boleyn in the medal is quite interesting. So particularly her headwear, which I know you've already touched upon. Why do you think she wore an English hood instead of a French one? Because she was well known for wearing French hoods.
Well, again, I think that's slightly based on the portraits that survived. You know, this French hood model that we have at Hever and the National Gallery. But when it mattered, we know that Anne wore the gable hood. She wore the gable hood on the day of her execution, on the morning of her execution, if she walked to the scaffolding. And I would love to know, maybe you can get onto this. I would love to know whether the gable hood that she wore as she walked to the scaffolding was the one that's in this medal. You know, she wore a gable hood. Was it this one? I would love to know that. It has been written that she changed her dress when she was arrested at Greenwich, that the first thing she did was to go and change. And it was mentioned in this account by Gareth Russell, beautifully written, that she changed into a red and gold dress. But I haven't been able to substantiate that, and I would love to, because if it was, then that would really strengthen the argument that it was this one, which would make it even creepier that it would then be inherited by Jane Seymour and such.
Yeah.
But in the painting of Jane Seymour, it is a red and gold dress. But anyway, she wore the, you know, the gable hood was very much associated with Catherine of Aragon, and Anne was very determined to be seen as the true Queen of England, legitimate, because of course Catherine was still alive then, and people saw Anne as a usurping whore and her children as bastards. So it was vital to her to say, no, I'm the Queen.
Yeah. So she's just reinforcing that status of her as being Queen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go back to
the fashion thing. I think it was, you know, Anne did statements.
So what was your favourite part about the research process and the reconstruction process?
Holding it, of course. You know, there isn't a single Anne Boleyn fan that wouldn't pass out with joy at the thought of holding something in their hand that might have been held by Anne. Obviously, there's no record that it was, but Eric Ives said that it could only have been made by royal authority, in which case it would have been minted at the Royal Mint at the Tower of London. But we know that Anne was a real control freak about her appearance, you know, very fastidious about her presentation. And so it would have been authorised by her, commanded by her and Henry. And I cannot imagine, and I don't think anyone that's done any research into Anne would imagine that she would not want very clear control of her, how she's presented. Mm-hmm. So the thought that she might have held it too was just like, that was lovely. And it was just, it was very interesting to recreate it, and the act of recreating it meant that I had to study it very closely, and it was very weird actually sculpting her bosoms, because she in reports about her it said that she had her, did she say bust not much raised or something? Not much raised. Anyway, you know, she wasn't reputed to be very buxom, and yet in the medal they really,
I was going to say, I've noticed them, they're quite pronounced, aren't they? Yeah.
And when, I have to say, I mean, I tried my hardest, absolute hardest, to make it totally and utterly authentic. But when I went back to the British Museum and played Spot the Difference with my reconstruction, in the original, her bust is even bigger. And I remember when I was modelling it, just going, no. And I thought, if I give her junks like that, people will think that I'm sort of trying to appeal to the Sun readership. Yeah. So I could urge on the side of caution. But it was really, that was a really strange feeling. It was like, you know, and the person who modelled the original would have spent, you know, you can see from looking at it under magnification, he spent a lot of time on her.
I can imagine that must be quite awkward to think that you're, you know, creating, reproducing the bosoms of the Queen of England on this medal.
Yeah.
That's quite
no, I wouldn't say that's my favourite, but it certainly was a notable part.
So, I mean, have you learned anything new about the Moost Happi medal that you didn't know at the time of reconstruction? So obviously it's been a fair amount of time now since you originally done it.
Yeah, well, in between doing that, I also wrote an academic paper about the choir screen in King's College Chapel, because at the time I was living in Cambridge, and with my small baby, you know, I was hanging around, I wasn't working at the time, and I spent a lot of time, it was just like, I want to be near anything that Anne has spent time with.
Yeah.
And so my daughter actually learnt to read in King's College Chapel, because she was just walking up and down and with nothing to knock over, and I would just be looking at the choir screen and thinking, what's that about? And so in the end I decoded it. And like with this medal, the screen was said to celebrate their marriage. And when I researched into the carvings and kind of looked at the significance of it, it turns out it's not a celebration, it's actually a rather menacing threat. It really is a very bold statement by Henry and Anne saying, we are God's anointed representatives, and basically death to anyone, any traitors.
Yeah, so really reinforcing their position then.
Yeah, and I think it was probably with that experience that then when I considered the medal again, that was what gave me the insight that it wasn't a little baby shower gift. It was kind of going, oi guys, I'm here.
Amazing. So from looking at one project to then looking at the other, it's really helped change your viewpoint.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
that's
mm.
interesting. So do you have any more projects lined up, such as this one? So I understand the curators at the British Museum have now linked a medal of Henry VIII to the Moost Happi medal. So would you perhaps look at creating a reconstruction of that medal to go alongside your Moost Happi medal reconstruction?
Well, people in the past said, oh, would you do one of all of his wives? And there didn't seem any point, because the reason, what motivated me to do this was that it was damaged and I wanted to make it whole. So I felt that I had a purpose in doing this. And I didn't just want to sort of make a copy for knick-knack, because I've got other fish to fry. But I have to say, having seen Henry's medal, and on the British Museum website, it says circa 1545, which obviously would not make it a partner to the Anne Boleyn's medal. I normally am a real stickler for provable fact, you know, so I don't like to speculate, but I have to say that I am very, very convinced that the medal of Henry that has recently come to light at the British Museum, I am sure it's a partner to this. The style, the size, and I've just recently produced, this is the size of the original. So now 3D scanning technology exists. So I was able to scan this and reduce it to the original size of 38 millimeters. And when I had the picture of Henry up on the screen, I put them together. It was like, oh.
Lovers reunited again.
Star-crossed lovers, you know, and I just thought this is how it was meant to be. And you know, this Moost Happi medal represents this brief moment of time where things seem to be going right. You know, it really was their most happy time, and I do love the idea of being able to put them together again, as I kind of feel like it's doing it for Anne, kind of like, you know.
So we should watch this space then, is what you're saying?
Yeah, maybe. I like that. I really like the idea.
Yeah, I think the idea is wonderful. So I have one more question from you, and it's provided from a lady called Karen Gray. So she's asked, has anyone ever tried to do a computer reconstruction using the medal and the reconstruction of your medal as a base that you know of?
Well, there was a guy a few years ago in California, the University of California, that was using facial recognition technology to identify sitters in paintings. And so I wrote to him and said, check out Anne Boleyn, because I really wanted him to have a look at the Nid Hall painting and all of the others, you know. And he looked at the Moost Happi medal in the British Museum, but his findings weren't conclusive. But that's the only technology that has been used. I wonder if she was thinking about that. But I mean, I don't know why anybody would do that. I mean, technology is changing so fast. If that technology had been available, then my skills as a reconstructor wouldn't have been necessary. But 12 years ago it didn't exist.
But are there certain certain positives for, you know, you looking at it in person that say a computer would miss? So would you see details that the computer would go, I haven't picked that up?
That is very true. That's very true, because the computer would just sort of take it all in, and I think it would be I mean, a lot of people think that technology is just this kind of, you press a button and it all just kind of goes bing. Yeah. And I wish it did in a way, but even sort of doing 3D scans. Because a lot of my stone carving colleagues, they think I'm a bit of a traitor to get into 3D scanning. They think I should be shaved in the market square. And I just think it is not as easy as you think. It's just another tool. So, you know, you do need human skill in order to use this technology. You're right. So no, I mean, I don't think it has been, and I'm not quite sure whether it would yield the results that was it Catherine?
Karen.
Karen.
Yeah.
I hope that answers Karen's question. The answer's no.
The answer is no.
I think.
So, I mean, that is pretty much all the questions that I have for you. So thank you for taking the time out from today and to come and talk to us. It's been a really fascinating insight into the whole reconstruction process, and it's brought us a step closer to understanding what the real Anne Boleyn looked like, and you've taken us on that journey with you, so thank you. Very excited to see your upcoming project. And
on television.
Yeah, that's going to be great. So we'll keep an eye out for that, and I'll post it up on the page when we spy it in amongst all the TV guides and stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to purchase a reconstruction medal or a pendant, and these can be bought from Lucy's website, which is lucychurchill.com. So thank you, Lucy. Have a wonderful afternoon.
Oh, and I'm launching these as magnets.
Oh, fabulous. Excellent. I'm going to purchase one of those then.
Yeah, and I mean, for all Anne Boleyn fans, I think there's more to be researched. I think there's more to be researched in the King's College Chapel choir screen. I only scratched the surface, and also this gable hood. Rachel, go for it.
Yes, I'm gonna have to look at when you were talking about it. I was thinking, I don't know of any sources that I've come across that have it in it, but
it was
certainly worth researching.
Lancelot de Carl, apparently, he said, and I know he's not a very reputable source, but go check him out.
Give it a go. Excellent. Thank you so much, Lucy.
Bye-bye.
Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Bye.